Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And before I get started, I want to just say thank you for checking out the podcast and supporting the podcast. Because of you, the State of the Saints podcast is now available on iHeartRadio. That's right. If you go to iHeartRadio.com, search the State of the Saints podcast, or if you have the iHeartRadio app, you can search State of the Saints podcast and you'll be able to listen to the show. So I'm smart enough to know that that wouldn't have happened without the love and support of the Who That Nation. So thank you all very much for allowing this podcast to be as successful as it has been. But you know what, Who That Nation, we got a little bit of a dilemma. As you all know, the Saints played on Thursday, Thanksgiving. Only the second time in history the Saints have played on Turkey Day. And they got the win. They roasted those dirty birds as well as they should. But we have a little bit of a problem. Normally I do the State of the Saints podcast, and it's about what happened on Sunday. I watch the game on Sunday, and I break it down. But there are no Saints games on Sunday, right? There's no Saints game this Sunday, and there's not another team that I actually care about. Okay, I'm just kidding, man. I love football. I follow all the teams, but this show mostly focuses on the Saints. So, you know, since there is no Saints game this Sunday, I decided to do something a little different. I am going to make this particular episode a Q&A edition of the State of the Saints podcast. The questions that I am going to answer are asked by listeners of the podcast. Thank you all very much for sending me your questions. I will try to answer them the best that I possibly can. But I want to remind those that don't know that they can follow the State of the Saints podcast on social media. You can go to facebook.com, search the State of the Saints podcast, follow the page as well as like the page, and you can inbox me your questions or your concerns or anything like that, your comments about the podcast. I really do appreciate any type of feedback that I get. But before I start answering the questions, I want to talk about a poll question that I put up on the page. And the question was, do you fear the Saints Week 13 matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys? Now, I do have another podcast to do. I have a prediction edition of the State of Saints podcast. So I'm going to try my best not to give too much of my prediction away, which I think if you follow this show, you know where I'm going with it. But that was the question. Do you fear the Saints Week 13 matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys? Now, 94% of people say no, they don't fear the Dallas Cowboys, but you still have 6% say yes, they do fear the Dallas Cowboys. Me personally, I don't think that a Saints fan should fear the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason why you fear the Dallas Cowboys probably is because of what you hear about the Dallas Cowboys. We all get suckered in to what we hear from the media, right? I mean, if we hear about a certain player, the media creates this image about a player, if it's bad or if it's good, and we follow that narrative. I feel like this is the same way when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are on a 3-game winning streak. But my question to anybody that is listening to this podcast, who in the hell did the Dallas Cowboys beat in this 3-game winning streak? So let's go ahead and break this down. I want to know, who did the Dallas Cowboys beat in this 3-game winning streak that will have you so afraid that the Saints can't get the job done? Well, let's go ahead and focus on the Dallas Cowboys 3-game winning streak, shall we? Okay, for the last 3 games, the Dallas Cowboys, when they started this 3-game winning streak, they played the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, just last week, the Saints beat the holy hell out of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They beat the Eagles down. Okay, I mean, the Eagles only scored 7 points versus the Saints. The Saints beat the Eagles 48-7. Am I supposed to be afraid that the Dallas Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Hell no. Moving on. The Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are a train wreck. I think we all can agree with that. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Saints fan, and of course, Saints fans don't like the Falcons. It's because it's true. They're decimated. They have so many injuries on the defensive side of the football. Matt Ryan looks like a mere shell of himself. Julio Jones has gaudy numbers but no touchdowns. And they have, in my opinion, the worst offensive coordinator in all of football in Steve Sarkisian. Am I supposed to be afraid that the Dallas Cowboys beat the Atlanta Falcons when the Saints just beat down the Atlanta Falcons on Thanksgiving? Hell no. Moving on. The Washington Redskins. Seriously? Did you not see Alex Smith have one of the most gruesome injuries in NFL history when he broke his leg? Oh, it just shattered it, man, like glass. Are you kidding me? And in comes college football standout Colt McCoy. Man, I forgot Colt McCoy was even in the NFL. When they said Colt McCoy was going to get the start for the Washington Redskins, I was like, Colt McCoy still in the league? It shocked me. This man only had 3 days to prepare for a Thanksgiving game. 3. He only had 3 days to prepare for this game. And this man kept the team in the game. And the Dallas Cowboys beat him. But let's backtrack to Monday Night Football when the Washington Redskins had their whole team intact. Then the Saints beat the hell out of them on Monday night, putting 40 up on the Washington Redskins. Am I supposed to be impressed that the Dallas Cowboys beat the Washington Redskins? So, to all those people out there that are concerned and saying, hey, man, you know, the Dallas Cowboys on a 3-game winning streak, my question to you is, who the hell did they beat? I'm just saying, who the hell did they beat? But feel free to answer the question that is available on the State of the Saints podcast page on Facebook. Now I want to talk about the Q&A questions. And once again, thank you for all those that chimed in with your questions. And I'll try to answer them the best way that I can. And if you have any questions, once again, go to the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page. And I will gladly answer the questions to the best of my ability. I mean, that's all I can do. Okay, this first question right here comes from Evie Gibson. Shouts out to Evie. Evie asked, who do you think have the biggest chance of beating the Saints down the stretch? Man, that's a good question. Who do I feel like can beat the Saints down the stretch? To answer your question, man, the team that really bothers me is the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I know the Carolina Panthers are up and down, but the Carolina Panthers always play the Saints tough. They have a good defense. Last year when the Saints went on that streak when they beat them 3 games in a row, they didn't have Greg Olsen. I don't think people understand how important Greg Olsen is to the Carolina Panthers. He is the heart and soul of that team, and he's Cam Newton's safety blanket. And Greg Olsen is a great tight end, man. I know he has some injuries. I think he broke his foot. And he's been dealing with that. He re-aggravated it early in the year, and he missed a few games, but now he's back. And you also have McCaffrey. He's playing pretty well. He's seen the field much better than he did his rookie season. Christian McCaffrey, there was a lot of issues. They were saying, yeah, he got the speed. Yeah, he can catch out the backfield, but can he run between the tackles? And he's proven that he can. So I fear the Carolina Panthers. I don't fear the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is the reason why. I just feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that the Saints are going to be up for. A lot of the problems when you're dealing with a young roster is having them play at a high level each and every game and try to tell them the importance of it, especially if you're winning week after week after week. So I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they represent, having those 6 Super Bowls, having that legacy, having that prestige and that mystique behind them, I think that the Saints can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not to mention that it is in the Superdome. But the Carolina Panthers are the team that scares me. I'm not afraid of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because the Saints are going to be up to that game. I feel like in week 1 when they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Saints didn't have the right game plan. They didn't know how to scheme for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that kind of threw him off. But believe you me, they have enough tape on Ryan Fitzpatrick if he plays. They have tape on Jameis Winston if he plays. And you know that they have that bad taste in their mouth, and they want to right the wrong of the lone team that beat them this season. So I think that it's going to be the Carolina Panthers, because Carolina Panthers have 2 opportunities to knock off the Saints. So thank you, Evie. Thank you for your question. Question number 2 comes from Leroy Peanut Walker. Man, what's going on, Leroy? Leroy question is, when do you think Brandon Marshall will play? Well, to be honest, I think that Brandon Marshall is going to play a little bit this Thursday against the Dallas Cowboys. I think you're going to see Brandon Marshall play in this game. Now, you're not going to see him do too much. I feel like they're going to put him in probably around goal line or something like that. Maybe like, when they install the goal line offense, you might see Brandon Marshall because he's a big target, a good red zone threat. I was listening to the Rich Eisen show, and shouts out to Rich Eisen because, man, Rich Eisen is so good at what he does. Hopefully one day I could be on Rich Eisen's level when it comes to knowledge of sports. But he had a Sports Illustrated writer in the studio, Peter King. And Peter King had the opportunity to shadow the Saints as they were getting ready for their game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was talking about how he had the opportunity to sit in the ballroom with the Saints team. He said that the Saints offense moved all the chairs to the side, and they were in a ballroom, regular clothes on and everything, moved all the chairs to the side, and Drew Brees lined the offense up in formation. And he called out this long cadence, man, and he was doing audibles, and he was telling his running backs and his receivers what to do if the defense do this and that. And I'm saying that to say this. Drew Brees knows exactly where his receivers are supposed to be at all times. Even if a play breaks down, he knows if he is under duress, he knows he can throw it to the left and Kamara is there. He can throw it over here and Dan Arnold is close to the sidelines. He knows this. He basically can run the offense with a blindfold on. And when you have a new player coming in that don't understand the language, and he was talking about how long these cadence are. So if you're Brandon Marshall and you're coming in to an elite offense, you have to know where to be, and the quarterback has to be on the same page with you. And Brandon Marshall isn't on that level just yet. So I don't think that you're going to see Brandon Marshall play a huge role in this Dallas Cowboys game, but I think you will see him. And I think as the weeks progress, I think you'll see more of Brandon Marshall in the offense. But as of right now, I look at Brandon Marshall like he's a rookie, like how Traquan Smith. I mean, he had a good preseason, but during the regular season, he started really slow. And now you see Traquan Smith coming on because he's starting to familiarize himself with the offense. So long story short, I think you'll see Brandon Marshall in this game versus the Dallas Cowboys, and you'll probably see him mostly on red zone threats or even possibly third down situations where it's possible that the Saints can move the chains. Next question comes from Shirley Kelly, and it says, will the Saints get home field advantage? That is a tough question. That is a very tough question right there. And I try to remove the homer inside of me, okay? I try to look at things realistically. And do I think that the Saints are going to get home field advantage? I'm going to say, unfortunately, no. I don't think that the Saints are going to get home field advantage. And it has a lot to do with the schedule down the stretch. When you look at the Los Angeles Rams schedule versus the Saints schedule down the stretch, you have to say that the schedule favors the Los Angeles Rams. The New Orleans Saints have to play the Dallas Cowboys, of course, coming up on Thursday. Then they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then you got the Carolina Panthers, then the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then to end the season, taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Los Angeles Rams, their schedule is not as tough as the Saints. And, of course, they have a bye this week, and then they go and they have to play the Detroit Lions. That's a home game for the Lions. You could say that there's a possibility they can lose to the Bears. The Eagles, you never know what you're going to get. The Cardinals, I mean, come on. And then you have the 49ers. Come on. I mean, you have to look at it that way. The NFC West is down this season. I don't think any of those teams, the Cardinals or the 49ers, have what it takes to beat the Rams. You can say there's a possibility, once again, that the Bears could beat them because the Bears have a good defense, but I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky and Matthew Stafford. I don't know what the heck is wrong with him this season. He looks awful. Absolutely awful, man. So you have to say, besides the Bears, I mean, you got to say that the Rams are going to go 14-2. But the Saints got to keep winning. They can't afford to have any slip-ups. They can't afford to have any mistakes. If they want to stay in a race with the Rams, they got to keep winning. Because I only see the Rams losing one more time. So the Rams can go 14-2. But if the Saints go 14-2, they own the tiebreaker because they beat the Rams head-to-head. And that would be enough for them to have home field advantage. But only time will tell. But to answer your question once again, I feel like they are not going to get home field advantage due to the schedule in favor of the Rams, but they will get a home game. They'll get a first round bye, of course, and you never know what's going to happen, man. The Rams may have a divisional game and they might end up losing, and that might make way for the Saints to have the NFC Championship game in New Orleans. And if that happens, I don't see any team in the NFC that will be able to beat the Saints in the Superdome. In a situation like that, I can't see that happening. Nobody's going to beat the Saints in the NFC Championship game leading to the Super Bowl. So that's my answer with that. And thank you very much, Shirley, for your question. And once again, if you have any questions, hit me up. Go to Facebook.com, go to State of the Saints Podcast, and inbox your questions. And this has been the State of the Saints Podcast. Check out the State of the Saints Podcast on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search the State of the Saints Podcast. And also you can check out the State of the Saints Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.com. Once again, thank you all for allowing that to be possible for this podcast. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?